you learned? I was programmed to beat you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back after missing last week's festivities. We had that update that added the new Chevy GT3, and we took the night off just to be safe. Wanted to make sure that there wasn't any sort of weird tomfoolery that happened. Not that it did, because nothing changed, but you know, it's better just to take a second, be 100%. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you may be watching this. My name is Nick Amon, and I want to welcome you to tonight's race. It's round 3 of the Simrigs Sprint Series, and of course we're here at Donington Park. You know, I was looking at the what was it? The little image we had for the starting screen, and I looked at the track. The track was oriented a certain way, and I was like, wow, that looks a lot like a little curling stone. So, I don't know. I don't know if curling's a big thing over in England. I don't think it is. They haven't won a lot of golds, at least as far as I'm concerned. But no, we don't care about that. We're caring about racing, and of course, you guys showing up. JC, how am I OOR's #1? Tell me that one. But we've got currently 13 drivers in the server. Of course, it's not quite race time just yet, but what it is time for. If you weren't here last race, don't worry, I've got you covered. Highlights from race number 2 at Misano. I didn't have the free practice nor the qualifying replays. I only had the race, but that's okay. We'll just jump right into what happened, and of course we'll be looking over at, well, the first man who's always out on circuit when it comes to these free practices and qualifyings. It was Jonathan Clifford, setting it early with the 33s. He was looking very quick there in the Lambo, much like he is every week, but his time was very, very tough to beat. Portis, of course, was also able to find his way. With the early start time, Misano always seems to cause problems for qualifying for the race, just because of the track limits, how flat this circuit is. So, while there were a good chunk of drivers who were getting their lap times in, there were some who weren't, simply just ran a little bit wide. Loverink and in P2, Montero there in 11th. So again, this is right at the start of qualifying, not too many times, but Clifford's 33 was very tricky to do. 91, of course, finding his way early P2, about 10 minutes or so in. Loverink would continue his quest. Best for him was only 3rd. There was a little bit of movement all around the grid. Not so much towards the top, though. Those guys were pretty set in stone. But Bandera there, 13th out of the last corner. And he surprisingly pips himself into the top 10, but it was going to be just barely enough to keep things going. So he had a lot of work to do if he wanted to hold on to it. And at that moment, with a couple improvements, Clifford also managed to find his way into the 32s. Just went back to pits and said, you know what, I'm gonna chill for a little bit. Loverink was still behind by a pretty significant margin, and then, well, none other than Rasco decides he wants to be in position number 2 for about halfway through qualifying. Very strong times. And then Sanchez, he was really pushing this lap. And he just ran it wide the last turn. I've done it there, I can't even tell you how many times. And with the time he posted with this lap, had it been within the lines, I believe he would have been up in the top 10, I think 8 or 9. If it had stuck. Fortunately, it didn't. But other drivers deciding that they want to improve. Carpenter, one such driver in the Mercedes in 9th position. He's been really showing he's capable of getting things squared away here in the Sprint Series. But he was another driver who happened to be improving at that moment. Again, really just pushing right on the edge of what the track considers legit, and he only gets a couple of spots out of it. So the higher up you go, the margin for error is so small. And you might have a few tenths, few hundredths, but it's going to be not quite a lot. Lanham goes into the top 10 from 12th up to 9th. He did have a little bit of a buffer there, but you know, it's going to take a little bit of time to see if it actually stuck. And then moving forward a bit more, we have some McDonald here. Of course, one of the newer drivers with McCullough. Those guys were having a little back and forth as to who's going to be the better of the two drivers. He was behind his teammate, but as he crosses the line, he just goes right in front of him at 12th. So he was happy about that. McCullough, though, he was really trying to get his teammate back, and I believe he would in qualifying. I could be wrong, but one big thing, Loverink, again, still trying. He had sandbagged a little bit in free practice, so he was trying to gain speed, trying to find something, and again, still second. Clifford hadn't been improving that entire time. He was pushing, trying to see how much extra space he could work with at the circuit, but it wasn't really going to be enough. But right at the end, as time was expiring, Loverink had one final chance to get a pole position. And as he goes through this final turn, look at just how much these little corrections, the input, just trying to keep the car as straight as possible, getting it turned around. The rotation was perfect, and it was enough for pole position right at the last minute. And for Loverink, well, you can't say you can be too surprised, but hey, it's going to count. So another pole position start, and that set us up for the first of, well, one race, 60 minutes, 2 mandatory stops. Everybody getting ready. I think it was 23 or 24 cars on the grid last week. A little bit of a break there in the in the pack, as it usually tends to happen every formation lap. But yeah, Loverink back on pole position. He's got some more work to do for this race, and of course here tonight with Donington. Of course, plenty of drivers around the grid. Frieza, one of them as well, placing pretty high as he usually does. But he had some, well, he would have quite the evening. Everyone, of course, at this point in the formation lap, double file. See all those liveries. It's great just to see what these guys are doing with their cars. As the last few come through. Don't worry, we'll get another shot. If you thought the side was cool, how about a little bit of over the top? There's always one car, 2 or 3, I think, that are going to be my favorites. But we get around finally to the start line. We're getting ready for this race to go green here. 60 minutes, 2 mandatory stops. and plenty of action to come, but the green flag is out. It is Loverink that had an incredible getaway along with Clifford. As we head into turn number 1, you can see just how close this pack is. A lot of side-by-side, a little bit of 3 wide, and a little bit of contact as well heading through turns 2 and 3. This is on board with Portis. You can see, even though he's up high, there's still a lot of battling. Carpenter a little loose there on the outside, and it wouldn't take long before we had some chaos, some carnage there, as Flores tapping the back of Frizza. That's going to catch out about 4 other cars. So Frizza's race already off to a bad start, but he's not going to let that deter him. This is the onboard from Flores, and it's going to be it's going to be a nice little hit. It's not going to be light, but it's certainly going to be forceful. Once in the rear, once in the right tire, and he's just going to have to keep going. There's not really a point for him sticking around. Now, side-by-side, Bandera and Sanchez heading onto the back straight. These guys, both McLarens, but wanting to see who's the better of the two. A couple of other drivers chasing, but having a very good seat. It's the inside line, though, as Bandera cuts one corner, and, well, he's going to cut the other one. It was a bit sketchy, but we'll take it. Now, Loverink having to lead from Clifford. Clifford's done a great job this season of just keeping that 52 in check, but Lady Luck's going to deal a bad hand. Loverink goes over the inside of the curb just a little too much. He's going to bounce the Audi all over the place. We'll get another outside shot of this. He was really pushing this corner early on. Not quite certain why, but the sausage curb's claiming another victim, and that would promote Clifford up into P1. Now, Loverink, of course, known for his esports status, and he's going to rejoin in a very, very dangerous way. That was Ben Keogh having to take rather scarily evasive action. You can see the onboard here just... Oof. It was very close. I was surprised watching this back that Loverink did not get someone else, but he found himself in the thick of things. Of course, going down the front straight and into turn 1. 5 cars, less than a 10 separating him. He's going to give a little bit of a hip check to Keogh, and one of the BMWs behind getting a little bit surprised by that. But Hernandez and Lemaire, this was a battle these guys had going on for a good chunk of the first sector into sector number 2. But there is a bit of a slipstream side by side. Hernandez makes the move on the inside, and Lemaire trying to come back here. They'll continue to carry this on. Very close to each other, but just a small touch there on the rear, and another touch just ahead of them. I don't quite remember what happened there, but everybody sort of shuffled themselves through, and a little bit of data loss there with the internet. That's okay. Everyone was able to get back going. Not the only spin, of course, that we would be seeing. Now, Frizza head-to-head with Fernandez. Down into turn 1. Frizza looking for a little bit of room on the inside, but has to just stay away. I think he really thought about standing on the brakes. Now, it is Fernandez, who got a little bit on the inside curb there on turn 2, and that gave Frizza all the opportunity he needed. He just hung the McLaren up high, made the move down low, made it stick, and got the position and drove away with it. Now, this is a little bit of a triple bit of action. So you have Hasser with Nelson in front of him into the braking zone very early on the brakes for the McLaren. Frizza takes advantage of that, but the big winner here, the BMW behind, recognizing and just darting down the inside. That was a run for position, thankfully, so it wasn't like me just being weird. But McCullough and Keogh, Flores ahead. Flores having to look over his shoulder. Or McDonald, excuse me. Not McCullough. McDonald making contact with the rear of the Aston Martin of Keogh. That'll spin him around, but he was more than willing to give the position up. Sanchez and Frizza will push through, gladly take those positions, no questions asked. And this is just a rear-facing shot, and it's just the smallest tap. Not quite what we saw on lap 1 with Flores and Frizza, but still just enough to spin the Aston Martin around. And you can see McDonald taking his place well behind, letting him through. Now, Rasco, Wilson, and Portis. This is a great little three-way battle. I think about towards the mid part of the race, you can see Rasco getting all sorts of sideways over the curbs, bouncing around, sparks flying. Now he does manage to get it back together, and Portis recognizes the speed he has out of the final corner, so he's going to sit behind him, grab the slipstream. He'll have a slightly worse line into turn 1, and does have to back out of that one into turn number 2. And Hernandez, we weren't done with him just yet, as he starts a little bit of a run here on Edwards. We'll go on board with the Aston Martin. You can see the BMW on the left side and into the braking zone. Hernandez gets the job done, but Edwards was not going to let him get away that easily. Back on the power, and this is going to carry on a little bit longer than you'd think. Another set of braking zones. Hernandez runs it wide. That invites the Aston Martin ahead. Now side by side, but the turbo lag on the Aston Martin's downfall. I have a pretty good bit of experience behind the wheel of that, and I gotta tell you, it's one of the most annoying things. He looked for a move to step out of the slipstream, but it just wasn't gonna happen. And for Hernandez, gladly pulled away with his position gained, and would keep the Aston Martin at bay for the race. Now moving ahead, a little bit of blue flag chaos. This is Migliori having to step aside for Sanchez and Frizza into turn number 1. Lets the McLaren through, but just a big hit there on the right side. Frizza just not having the best race. It felt like this will be the onboard from Frizza out the back. There was nothing that could have been done. It was just a slight little bit of telepathic miscommunication. And Frizza doing what Lovering did and almost picking up Nelson and all of that. Nelson, the onboard here, he had pretty much no time to react. He came in, saw that someone was moving, and by the time he got to the scene of the crime, slamming on the brakes, having to dart to the left, and that wasn't going to be what he wanted to be a part of. Lovering, this is battling Wilson. Lovering, of course, his spin from earlier put him down 7th or 8th. He was slowly picking his way through the field, and Wilson was one such target. John Alesi esports driver really showing his stuff at Misano, but at the end of it all, although actually, sorry, this I want to show in its entirety. This was an incredible battle. Sanchez in the McLaren leading Kyo. These guys had been stuck to each other for quite a lot of this race, and it was going to continue. This was, I believe, the penultimate lap of this race, but you can see how much Kyo is pushing to try to get around Sanchez, and it was a night race. You can see how dark it is, so it's really just any track light spot and the headlights keeping these cars illuminated. But Kyo looking for a move on the inside. He does get later on the brakes, but a very small tap on Sanchez. That'll spin the Mexican driver around, but thankfully it was only 90 degrees, so they were able to keep going. And that invites a certain someone else into the mix. 2 positions gained right at the end. Sanchez recognizes this, Kyo recognizes this, and they are both going to start pushing hard as we go on to the back straight here. 3 cars separated by less than 1/10 of a second as they head through the right. You can see the gaps there, and Sanchez realizing it is now or never. He tries to go around the outside. It looks like it's going to stick, but he just gets onto the marbles and tags up Kyo. Kyo spins around. Sanchez spins around. We'll take a look as you can see that there was just no time for Kyo to react. Completely ruined his race. He said something got broken on his steering wheel or something to that effect, and his race was over. Sanchez going over just to check on him, say I'm sorry, but there was really nothing that could have been done, so Kyo had to go back to the pits. But by the time the checkered flag fell, Clifford taking advantage of Loverink's mistake and came home to win it all at Misano. Great race for the 999 as he is on his way making a name for himself, or a run rather, for the championship. But it was Clifford, Landry, Carpenter, Portis, Loverink, Wilson, Rasco, Frizza, Sanchez, and Lanham, your top 10. And of course, with all things, I decided to take a look at the standings. So Landry leads the championship, 224 points. Loverank only 4 points back at 220. Then it's Clifford with 213. Portis is in 4th position with 185. He has a 3-point gap over Andrew Wilson, who's down in 5th place. Then Lanham in 6th with Rasco behind him in 7th. 11 points separate those two, 162 to 151. Frizza is going to be 8th overall so far in this championship. He's got 136. Carpenter in the Mercedes, 115 points, finds himself in 9th. Flores, 105. So top 10 separated, 119 points. And if you're wondering how that looks in each classification, for the pros, Landry, Loverank, and Clifford. For the silvers, it's Lanham, Frizza, and Bandera. For the pro-ams, Hernandez, McCullough, and Edwards. And then for the amateur class drivers, Migliori, Nelson, and Mercado. So how all that factors in to tonight's race, well, we'll have to wait and see. But we do have some new drivers being added to the grid at Stapleton. We've had him before, but he's back once again in a very familiar-looking livery. I run the same thing on my Lamborghini. But Ali Khairuddin from Malaysia, this is one of Asia Pacific's usual drivers, deciding that he wants to hop on a flight and get up here to North America in the Porsche right now. Hasn't set a lap just yet, but we still have a minute and a half in free practice. But good to see him here. Scott Waters, another new driver. And I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of the purple and green. Kind of a, good 90s look. So he's currently 16th in the 67 Lamborghini. We'll see what he can do tonight. But, yeah, 17 on the grid. And Loverank leads it right now, 126.04. Clifford, 2nd place, just almost 2 tenths back. I had a chance to catch Clifford's live stream earlier tonight. I asked him how he was feeling about this circuit, and he said, well, it doesn't really come up in the championships that he runs in, and it's not one that he runs very often on his own. But he's hoping for a good result here tonight. And we'll see if the 999 can do anything. And Jeff Spangler, I haven't seen him in a hot second, but he's looking pretty good there. 4th position, half a second off the top time. We'll see if he improves. He does actually, just under a 10th, almost 600ths off of Loverank. Does Spangler have it in him to ruin the party and take pole position? Chris Frizza right now, 6th position overall. 74 looking to do better than he did last week. As he stops on track, no problem there. Dan Fernandez, new livery here on the 26 McLaren. He's 9th with a 127.18. Looks like somebody got a bunch of watercolor paint on his car, but I'm not going to complain. He's just over a second off of the top time. Only drivers out right now, Spangler, Fernandez, and Lanham. I guess not Lanham. I guess Lanham just went back to the pits. Fernandez! Ooh, big hit there. We didn't really catch that fully, but I could tell he was just pushing for that lap. So he'll go back to the pits, and I think Spangler should have enough time to get around. I don't think the lap's going to count. He's already at a 104. It might count. He's got an improvement on the Delta. Just checking chat, JC. Top 5 tone, best professionalism. That's a low bar. Top 3 camera angles, all while managing it solo. Number 1 overall, no contest. All right, well, I'll take it, I guess. Spangler. No, I guess he wasn't good enough to improve. But we are here in qualifying, so while the drivers... Oh, I thought Portis got out before Clifford. That never happens. While we let these drivers get out for their out lap, we'll give a quick shout out to Simrigs, sponsoring Season 17 of the Sprint Series. I've said so much about them, out of Melbourne, Australia. And they, of course, are going to partner with our wonderful organization, because a certain someone, Mr. Mullock, out of Tasmania, will be more than happy to partner up with these guys. But all of Australia and New Zealand, you guys have got a wide selection of sim racing equipment to choose from. Wheels, bases, shifters, pedals, gloves, whatever it is. They've probably got it for you. And if you're like everyone here in North America, or really anybody that isn't on Australia or the nation of New Zealand, if you send them an email, they'll be happy to do some business with you. And if you are supporting us via Patreon, you guys are getting 5% off your in-store purchases. So I would say take advantage of that. It's only 5%, but hey, that's 5% you don't have to spend. But again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring another season of the Sprint Series. Hope to see them again soon with next season and plenty of other events that we do. But right now, Clifford hunting the cones, or the bollards rather, as he does, as is tradition here at Donington through the chicane. That isn't really much of a chicane, it's just more of a straight line. Almost like the first chicane at Zolder. See a lot of people straight lining it, which is possible. We'll see what Jonathan Clifford can do with Portis in tow. Like I said earlier, Clifford's been a little bit iffy with this track. He's had some problems, and I think everyone else has as well. Again, this isn't one of the more popular tracks that are run, especially in things like LFM, that everyone tends to crowd around. But Jonathan Clifford starting us off here at Donington, the first qualifying lap. Portis will see if he can best him. And of course, we'll keep an eye on everybody: Lemaire, Spangler, Hernandez, Rasco Wilson, Stapleton, Pocket, Bondera, Waters, Fernandez, Lanham, Friza, Sanchez, Loverink, and Kyrudin. I have an idea as to who will take pole position, but I'm interested to see who, if anybody, can ruin my prediction. And if there's anyone that I think could pull it off, it might be Lamborghini in front of us. But let's ride on board. Let's see what exactly Clifford has in store for us. Very well done. That looked clean to me. Track is greasy though. So it looks like there's a little bit of rain that came in between the end of free practice and qualifying. There is going to be some rain later on, but I don't think that will happen 30 minutes out with 12 to go. So I think that rain will be out off a ways before it gets to us. I saw Box saying that AP had some rain, so maybe we'll see if that happens here. But a 1:30.99 is going to set the standard, but of course Portis says that's cool. Here's a 30.85, so that will be the provisional pole lap. So he does a celebratory spin. Well earned, well executed as well. But nobody else is on a valid lap. Everybody is on their out laps, but it looks like the 7:32 of Kyrudin drops an 89. So that apparently is a good lap. Hernandez coming in with a time that's good enough for 4th position. The 1:35 there of Rasco off. We'll check in with the 91 of Andrew Wilson. See what he can do. Across the line. It's not another, a lot of outlaps, so we should be seeing most of these drivers. Sanchez, 32.42. For himself, 4th position. Loverink getting his first lap in, a 33.84. Obviously not anywhere close to indicative of his true time. So there's Waters off to the side. Gonna be getting in the way! Oh boy, that was close. I think that might have ruined Loverink's lap a little bit. Yeah, he did. He lost a full second there. So that's gonna cause him a bit of strife. Stapleton starting their first lap. That's the same livery I run, but it's on a Lambo instead of a Ferrari, but still looks good regardless. A 35.4. And that is pretty much everybody right now. Your top 7 have times, although Jeff Spangler getting around those very slow hairpins. And you can start to see that dry line forming whenever moisture is still on track. Starting to get whisked away. So we'll see what the 19 has. Back with another season of sprint. And he'll go 2nd overall, a 30.03. I just realized Kyrudin has pole provisionally, 29.91, so first driver to get that far. See if there's anybody else. Andrew Wilson getting his valid lap in, 30.04, so a lot of 30s. 129, and we have the rest of the grid kind of spaced out in terms of overall pace. But a good first stint there for Wilson. somebody crossing the line. I think starting an outlap or starting another lap. Stapleton down in 9:35.4. We saw that. Kyrudin improving right now. A few tenths up on his personal best. Go on board here. One of Asia Pacific's, I'd say, pretty well-known drivers. I'd say it can be a bit of a threat on circuit, and certainly having a little bit of fun here in North America. Does it give Loverig a run for his money? Speaking of run, it's another run higher for the provisional pole sitter, 29:32. So we're starting to close in on the 128s. Perhaps that becomes a reality. Eduardo Sanchez, pretty big improvement for him. Just over a second and a half right now. He's running with a 32:42 for his personal best. So if he puts this together, he'll also be into the 30s. I think he would take 4th away from Portis if my math is to be correct. And I'm not a math guy, so who isn't just behind Portis. 0.2 of a second. But yeah, math is not my strong suit. Communications is. Oh, and Rasco finally deciding to show up. Over half a second off of pole, but a 129.88. That'll be good for him. The only people who haven't set times, Craig Pocket, Joel Bonderas, Scott Waters, Dan Fernandez, Larry Lanham, and Chris Frizza. But Pocket, with the flames there on the McLaren, everyone knows flames make you faster. So this is going to be a valid lap, as he is sitting behind one of the Ferraris. I believe that's Stapleton in front of him. There's Spangler. Stapleton moves up. Pocket. Oh, not a valid lap. Interesting. My broadcast controller is having a bit of a fit right now. It's showing very long lap times. Oh, and Loverink deciding to show Kyrudin how we do it in North America. 129.06. A lot closer to that 128 barrier than the Malaysian. So he doesn't improve. This will be the start of another lap, so we'll see. The 732 can do a little wide there at the exit of 1. Joe Bandera running it onto the grass. It was looking like a great lap there to start. And Brian Rasco, hello. 128.98. So neither Loverink nor Kyrudin will take the first 28s. Sanchez in P3, then Portis. Kyrudin goes down to 5th. That's interesting. Let's check in with Dan Fernandez. Also yet to set a lap. Same with Lanham. I'm not seeing it's server issues. It might... Wilson! What in the world? A 128.40. What are these times? Is my game... Am I having problems? I mean, I know I'm having problems, but... Is my game having problems as Spangler does a 128.33? This might be the strangest qualifying I've ever watched. And I don't know what's happening. I'm just gonna... Okay, Loverink with a 20... Just put in a 27.7. Okay, I think everybody's just sandbagging right now. And yeah, the track is getting faster. So Loverink in the 27s with the 74. Kyrudin responds 300s faster. Just about 27.71. So track is getting drier. Dryers are getting more confident. Pocket, Bondero, Waters, Fernandez, and Lanham. No lap time set just yet. I think we just saw Jonathan Clifford move up. He's over a second off of the top times, but he's in the top 5 at the very least. So that's good news for him. We'll check in with Portis, who is on an out lap right now. Same with Sanchez. Or I think this is a hot lap, pardon me. Pocket through the chicane. I don't think... Oh, Loverink is improving. Loverink's got a few tenths right now. And as long as he doesn't get held up, he should be good to go. Track goes fast, so it should be going green and then optimal very quickly. Obviously an ambient temperature of 17 Celsius, 20 degrees on circuit. And a slight breeze, cool thing, or dry things out, 27:37 for the Audi. Does Kyrudin have a response? Can he fire back as he comes down? He does, but it's not enough at 27:46. Just under a tenth of a second. But we are seeing a lot of improvements right now. Clifford being one of them. Over a second, the final hairpin navigated perfectly, and it's up to P2. Kyrudin bopped down. We are seeing very good times starting to come out here. And was that Fernandez that just went all the way up to 7th? 28.93. Who else improving? Chris Frizza, 74 Ferrari. Bricks Racing in 7th position. Don't think anyone ahead of him is... Oh, there's... That's not Pocket. That's Lemaire. Lemaire in 12th right now. He's not improving. Struggling quite a lot, it seems, with this circuit. Spangler's in 5th. Does he improve? No. Does Frizza improve? He goes to 4th. Ahead of Rasco. Lovrink out of the final corner. He's got a lot of pace. 26.76 there. So that'll further cement his place in 1st. Sanchez doesn't improve. Hernandez, not Hernandez, pardon, that was, I think, Wilson. So there is a very large gap once you get to 4th. It seems like the top 3 owned by Lovrink, Kyrudin, and Clifford Portis. Finally putting that Honda up a bit higher. 4th overall, just under a second off of pole position. And Clifford not improving. In the background, that was not Hernandez. Or that was not Fernandez. Whoa, Fernandez. Actually, perfect timing on that one because he goes up to 5th. So that moves Frizza around. The only drivers yet to put in laps, Craig Pocket, Larry Lanham. Does Lanham get a time? Yes, he does. 13th fastest, so he'll take that. Brian Rasco goes up to 5th. Moves around Frizza and Fernandez. Pocket is the only driver who hasn't set a time yet. And I think he just cut the chicane too much. I want to pull up the track map and see. No, it's a valid lap. Oops, not that one. Nope. There we go. I know what I'm doing. Craig Pocket. Let's see if Homebrew can pull something together and get that McLaren higher up on the grid. You see Sanchez ahead of him and Bandera behind him. Sanchez staying 5th. Pocket's going to put the lap in. That'll be 14th. Bandera goes up to 10th. Andrew Wilson finding a second added on for his time. Portis improving as well. Gets around, or not gets around, but gets closer to the front. Clifford goes 2nd. Wilson goes 6th fastest. Kyrudin can't get farther ahead, but does improve. Stays in 3rd position. There's Lovrink behind. I think Lovrink did improve as well at 26.76. So that was the lap I think we saw earlier. So I think that was his out lap he just did. Who else is improving? Spangler be one of them. And Waters behind. Waters has had a pretty abysmal qualifying here to start. He's not finding good times. He's got... I see him sometimes in corners. It looks like he's got speed, but he's just going outside those track boundaries. So we'll see if he can reel in that Lamborghini. Spangler! Provisional pole position, a 26.66. That's over a 10th on Lovrink. Lovrink is improving. Final times coming in. Frizza 10th, Lanham 13th, 17th for Water. Stapleton's back in the pits. Lemaire, Pocket, Bandera, Hernandez out on circuit now. I think he's going to be the next driver we see. There's Portis behind. Portis right now 5th position. Hernandez down in 12th. Hernandez not improving, and he will stay there. Portis from 5th stays 5th, but does go faster on that lap. So that'll do him wonders. Loverink getting around the final corner. Can he take pole position away from Spangler? Can Kyrudin do anything? Kyrudin can't. Loverink does. Half a tenth to the race leader. Dan Fernandez up to 8th at the last second from 9th. So Rasco's going to start in his position. Frizza makes it into the top 10. Bandera just missing out. But the grid is set. And that means one thing and one thing only, and that, of course, if you've been here long enough, or even just remember the week before, it is going to be time for a little bit of a track walk, folks, or a little bit of a grid walk, rather, because we like to pay attention and see what these drivers have done. Oh my god, I forgot the focal length the whole way in. There we go, fix it. But we've got some rain on the way. 30 minutes out in a 60-minute race, that could spell trouble for some drivers, depending on what happens. So let's get through this grid and see what cars we have. Loverink, I'm fairly certain I know what livery's supposed to be on it, but I don't think he submitted it to the livery sync tool that we have, so that's going to make things a little tricky, but it doesn't matter. He's the only Audi on the grid. And I think he's probably one of the only people in the OR who's actually running the Audi right now. But pole position, half a tenth over Spangler. We haven't seen Spangler up that high in a while, because I haven't seen him, but it's good to have him back there in second position. Jonathan Clifford into the top 3 with Ali Kyrudin from AP, making the trek up to North America, starting 4th, and then Kenneth Portis back in the top 5. Good to see him up there as always. And Andrew Wilson starts us off in 6th. Sanchez laying claim to 7th place here after qualifying. And he'll have Fernandez to keep him company there on the 4th row. Brian Rasco and Chris Frizza, 9th and 10th respectively. And then 11th place, Joel Bandera. That's going to be his spot. Jaden Hernandez will be right behind him. The 888 BMW starting 12th. Larry Lanham, bit of a rough qualifying for him. He'll be down in 13th with Craig Pocket right next to him on the grid. Lucas Lemaire, another driver struggling with qualifying here at Donington. And Ondanique Stapleton in 16th with Scott Waters rounding us out in 17th position. Very rough qualifying for everybody. It seems to be a bit of a trend here with both Misano and Donington very flat. Well, I'd say, well, obviously Donington's not as flat as Misano, but certainly can be tough on the drivers. So while we get ready for this race to start, a quick shout out, of course, another one to Simrigs, and we'll do it again one more time before the end of all festivities here. But again, Melbourne, Australia, what have I not said about them? Great guys, and of course, wonderful people sponsoring the Sprint Series. We love having them around. Obviously, all of Australia and New Zealand, you guys are covered, but outside of that, send them an email. They'd be more than happy to do a little bit of business with you. And, well, if you're supporting us via Patreon, you guys are going to be getting 5% off your purchases, whatever it may be. Birthday, anniversary, maybe you just got some money you want to throw away. Hey, we've got you covered. So, again, shout out to Simrigs sponsoring another season. And I think Melbourne's pretty cool there, Ferox. But then again, that's just me. But we should be going here in just a second. I think, yeah, we have just ticked over the 32nd, or the last of the time. So coming down the hill, 17 drivers. This will be the calmest lap that we'll have. You can see who is where, whatever your favorite driver may be, whoever your favorite driver may be. They, well, gotta keep an eye on them, because things can go one of two ways very, very quickly. Dan Fernandez here in 8th. Of course, as great as the liveries are, there's always great little messages on them, and Dan Fernandez's, I do agree with. Getting some heat in those tires, maybe a little bit of heat in the brakes as well. But Loverink. Can't say I'm all too surprised that he's starting on pole position, but Ali Kyrudin, that's a big one right there. Playing with probably 200 to 300 ping. which is about standard with what I do if I decide to participate in the longer endurance events that we run. If I ever race. But welcome to NA, Kyrudin. Good to have you, and hopefully you find yourself right here at home. And to see what you can do. Portis, they're in 5th position. A lot of McLarens showing up here, and a decent number of Ferraris. So we are going 2 wide as the rest of the pack catches up. We should be racing here very, very shortly. But Spangler maybe could give Loverank a run for his money. Of course, that's just a 1-lap pace. This is a 60-minute race. 1 mandatory stop only for fuel. No pit window last I checked unless something changed. But we should be going green here very, very shortly. 17 drivers, but surely going to be something good. But as we roll over under the banner, rather, drivers getting ready, watching for the green lights, watching for the green flag, and there it is. It's a great jump. Loverank and Spangler getting it done. And I think Clifford almost did. Kyrudin's going to try to go around the outside. That's going to invite Portis up the inside. And also, it's Clifford taking advantage of a Spangler running wide, and Kyrudin will stay in 4th position. But we are going to be single file racing as we head down the hill out the back of the 732. Sanchez on the grass, spins himself out. I think he tried to go for a move there around Andrew Wilson, but it just did not work in the slightest. Thankfully, it doesn't take anybody else out. And this race underway here at Donington Park. As we come up and over the right-hander, Loverank leading from Clifford, Portis, Kyrudin, Spangler, Sanchez, Wilson, Rasco, Fernandez, and Frizz. Or no, sorry, not Sanchez. Sanchez going way down the grid. It's actually Bandera up into the top 10. Through the chicane, a lot of bumping over that. You can already see a gap starting to form. Andrew Wilson is eyeing up Spangler. Spangler, big loser from the start, from 2nd to 5th in just a couple of corners. Dan Fernandez, I thought for a second, was looking to remove Rasco from his front and put him in the rearview mirror, but right now the rearview is going to be taken up completely by Frizza, single file racing. So we head across the timing line. Loverank leads it. We'll ride, we'll get on board here with Frizza. So we head down, we'll slide there, Fernandez. This little section here, Donington, always a lot of fun. Feels like a roller coaster when you get it right. Very easy to get wrong, though. You get a little bit overconfident coming down and through the twists and turns, and that'll do you in. But to the left, as far as you can, try to get it as close to the inside, and then this uphill right. It's not blind. It's not the worst blind corner we've seen. Think of Sheen from week 1 at Brands Hatch, but it certainly feels like that. But Fernandez not losing any time. It's actually the 74 Frizzo that's losing out as he completely disregards the latter half of the chicane. That will most likely be a track cut warning. Getting handed over. Montanique Stapleton getting overtaken. Sanchez starting to make moves. And Waters loose and sideways through the chicane. 35 is going to move up on that one. But Sanchez making, starting to make up ground. And speaking of ground being made up, you can see Clifford and Loverank already pulling away from 3rd place Portis. Kyrudin, Spangler. Spangler's trying to make something work there. I think the Porsche just got a little bit loose. So we head down, yeah, so time lost on the Honda. Time lost on the McLaren. How much better the aero is on the McLaren than the Porsche. I don't know what the setups are looking like. Spangler so close. Trying to find anything he can. We'll go with Kyrudin changes so we can see front and back. Portis starting to pull away a little bit. We'll see what happens through the chicane. How brave people are getting as the tire bundle gets punted. Pretty standard practice. I believe that might have come out of Clifford. And a slight little dip. Oh, Spangler, I think a little bit of a nibble there. Trying to unsettle the Porsche. Doesn't happen, though. And ends up losing time. Wilson, Rasco, Fernandez, and Frizza. You see all of them in that shot. And now the gaps open up again. We'll check in with Sanchez as he is dispatching Pocket. Ooh, Pocket, I think, might have a little bit of a run there. No, he doesn't. He'll get in the slipstream. But a superior exit for Sanchez makes up another position. If he keeps this up, he should be back to where he was in no time at all, but that is easier said than done. Behind Stapleton, Waters, a little bit of trouble for them, trying to make up ground where they can. Kyrudin's still under assault. He's not gaining any time to Portis. And Spangler maybe playing the long game. Get into his head mentally. Say, you're losing time to Portis and so am I, but one person you're not losing time to is me. And Wilson might also be in the same sort of boat. Keeping Spangler on his toes, knowing that one little mistake, he is going to be there. And even Rasco, to some extent, could also be in the mix, and behind him is Fernandez. I don't think Fernandez is going to be pushing all too hard, at least at the start. I think his plan might just be to sit back and let things happen, let the race come to him. But this might be where we tend to stick for a while. Portis, Kyrudin, Spangler, Wilson. Looking at lap times here. Kyrudin, the only driver out of those four in the 26s. And not the fastest lap, though. Fastest lap is Clifford right now, 126.75, and he was almost a full second towards the end of the lap, but now he's gained a couple of tenths. But he has over a second to Portis, so he doesn't have to worry about that. He's probably just going to look more to figure out where Loverink is weakest. And Lemaire getting overtaken by Sanchez, another position gain for the Mexican driver. Making very short work of the field. 3 overtakes in the last 3 laps. But it only gets harder from here. Kyrudin, Spangler, side by side. Finally, Spangler's found some space. And while these two are fighting, Portis will take advantage of it and try to build his gap. Oh, Spangler having to get off the throttle there, almost into the back of the Porsche. That has been the closest that Spangler has been so far tonight. But still 52.5 minutes to go. Loverink taking fastest lap with a 26.6. Now we are not going to be seeing the last of Kyrudin Spangler for sure. And if the pace is anything to go off of, there is a chance that Portis finds himself in the unfortunate position of having to deal with the Porsche. And Wilson as well. It's Rasco's starting to fall off quite a bit on this on these 4 cars. But for right now, gaps are staying the same. The only movement we're seeing is out of Sanchez. Ooh, later braking there for the Porsche. That's going to be side by side. That could be what Spangler needs. As we go into the braking zone, it's still side by side racing. You can see how close Kyrudin is, and he's starting to lose ground. Spangler gets the overtake done. He's going to have to take a defensive line, though. Is he? No, he's on the racing line. Kyrudin back down the inside. A little bit of rubbing there. And retakes the position. Spangler giving Kyrudin a taste of what's to come. I thought for sure the 19 was going to stay on the left side and try to force the Porsche around the outside, but that wasn't going to happen. And Portis, I don't know if he's deliberately staying close or if he's trying his best to get away, but it's just not good enough. As Clifford retakes fastest lap with a 26:45. No, Sanchez. There's Pocket going wide. And another position gained. There is pretty much nothing that can be done right now because Sanchez, a man on a mission. Back up to the chicane for these three. Last time we were around here, Portis had a slightly different break point. Kyrudin, that got him right up on the bumper. Had to get on the brakes a little bit longer. That gave Spangler a chance. This time, though, it will remain single file. Slightly different apex for these two. Andrew Wilson still patiently waiting in the wings. Thought Spangler was going to go into the back there. Despite the gaps here, they have stayed pretty consistent, especially with Rasco and Fernandez there. Frizza in the background, and behind him, Bandera and Lanham. This is the battle for 10th. Of course, Larry Lanham already with a win under his belt this season. He won race 2 at Brands Hatch because of the reverse grid. And Lanham he is in the top 10. He's 6th overall in the championship. So he has got some work to do. But he is leading the silver division. Although ahead of him is 2nd place Frizza and 3rd place Bandera. And the clouds are starting to move in. It's getting darker. We're going to have rain in 10 minutes. At that point, it becomes a question of, do you go into the pits or do you bank on the rain not being that heavy and drivers clearing the track quick enough? If we, depending on the grid size, sort of dictates if and when you even come in for those wet tires. The clouds or the sky very gray. But it won't be too long, just a quick shower. And then it will go back to just being regular old Donington Park. 2.1 seconds already. Lovrink has pulled out over Clifford, but Clifford's still with the fastest lap at 26:45. Which is 100th faster than Loverink's with a 26:46. Oh, Portis. Portis starting to find himself in a bit of a tricky spot. Because the entire time that we kind of left these guys alone, Kyrudin's pulled in. What was once about half a second is now just under 2/10, maybe a little bit more. Last lap times. Kyrudin 2/10 faster. Same with Spangler. Could this be a three-way battle for 3rd, though? That's going to be the big question. So we continue to look out the back. Can Kyrudin do anything? No, maybe. Oh, slightly more speed. Through the chicane, he has a bit of a run. He's going to look to the right. Pulls out once, pulls out again. He's going to be later on the brakes into the zone. That is side by side. The rain's starting to fall here at Donington. It's not just one spot that Portis is losing. It might be a second, though. Spangler trying to take advantage of the situation. But not gonna happen. Ali Kyrudin up to 3rd. It was coming eventually. It was just a matter of when. Turns out that lap exactly. So the rain... Oh, track immediately going to greasy, and we still have 10 more minutes of this. You wonder if that system sticks around, though. Does the rain just keep going? It looks like it's going to get... Oh, it's going to rain even more in 10 minutes. This may be the call for wets. If it gets bad enough. We have a yellow flag out. on circuit. The 67 of Waters having some troubles. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's strange. I think coming out of the turn, he just, like, the back end just sort of lost grip. Thankfully, no one was around, so he's able to get back on circuit. Tough race here for Waters, though. Not how you want to start things. The rain continues to pelt the circuit. Track's still greasy. But what happens? Who comes in? Do they come in at all? You can see the gap, 2.2 to first. Oh, Loverink comes into the pit lane very early. Loverink goes in, Spangler's in, Wilson's in, Rasco is in. This is the call. I think they all might have seen... I think they all saw Loverink came in and said, well, I guess I'll do the same thing. Fernandez, Frizza, Bondera comes in, Lanham stays out, Hernandez as well. Does Sanchez come in? The track is damp. Now is the time to go in. Very wide there. The 21 staying out. You wonder if this goes well or not. 30 seconds for the pit stop, though. Stapleton. Will Stapleton go in? It's a great time to do so. If you're gonna... Yeah, you can see the water being kicked up. Stapleton goes in. Does Lemaire do the same thing? Yes, he does. Scott Waters a long way back, so we won't have to worry about him just yet. Loverink out and getting the pit stop cleared. Here's the thing. If the rain leaves after that 10-minute time has been passed and we're just stuck with a regular track, how quickly does the track dry, if at all? Flashing the headlights, telling Pocket to get out of the way. Even though this isn't a blue flag, this is more just, yeah, Loverink saying, hey, I'm faster than you, I have the wets on, please move, and Craig Pocket doing so. And if you've ever wondered how can you tell who's on what tire just by looking at the side, if you see the yellow Pirelli logo rolling around, those are the slicks, but if there is nothing at all, it's a completely black sidewall. That's how you know you are on wet tires, so you can see there is no yellow blur. Let's see, Larry Lanham comes into the pit lane. Hernandez right behind him. Oh. Hernandez was a little too quick. Stapleton's still in. I think Waters is coming, or is in the pits already. Portis staying with it. Portis is playing with fire right now, because he is on slick tires on a wet track. It's still raining. The rain will get lighter in about 10 minutes. And Kyrudin as well. Same with Clifford. Pocket. Oh, no. Well, Waters is obviously... I think Waters is coming out of the pit lane. He might now. He's still getting this car service, so worry about him. But yeah, Lanham, Hernandez. I think Hernandez will be picking up a drive-through though. He was a little too quick over the line. We'll see if Clifford comes in, because if there's ever a time to come into the pit lane, it would probably be right now. You're on slick tires. You're on a wet track. It's raining. It's just gonna get worse. It's gonna get more miserable. Okay, you can hear the car sliding. Yeah, a lot of... Oof. He's braving the storm, though. Oh, Lanham with the stop-go 30. That's going to be for track limits. And he'll have to serve that separately from his pit stop. Kyrudin also passing up the lane. What about Sanchez? I think the drivers that are staying out are gambling on not having to take a secondary pit stop later on if the track gets to a point where it is still drivable on slicks. And it's going to be a big gamble, because there is no guarantee. Behind, that is Rasco and Wilson, I believe. Craig Pocket getting out of the way. Oh, yeah, it's Wilson and Rasco, yep. So that's Actually, him just getting out of the way, despite not being able to flag fair. Yeah, Pocket having a lot of problems. He's probably going to look to come in. He's letting everyone through. He doesn't want to get back onto the racing line. And does he come in? Yes, he does. He's had enough. Puts on that pit limiter very early. And says, I am all set. I have had enough. Please let the suffering end. So that leaves Lanham, Sanchez, Clifford, Portis, Kyrudin. Does the number 8 come in? There's this rain has completely thrown everything out the window. Alright, Lanham comes in. This is most likely going to be the stop-go 30 getting served. If he does want a if he does want to change to wet tires, I'll have to do it later. But the number 8 parking it up, and that should be 30 seconds gone soon enough. We'll join Rasco and Wilson, though. The battle for 7th. Carrying with these two right now. Into the chicane. Oh, Wilson. Wilson and Rasco getting it wrong. Wilson got the first half wrong. Rasco got the second half wrong. Almost going around. Able to save it, though. And another yellow out on the track. It's the 52 of Loverink. What has happened to Loverink? This is very much unlike him. So we'll go overhead. This is into the last turn. Oh, it was actually Sanchez. Oh, that's weird. So Loverink got a little bit sideways. Back end stepping out to the braking zone, had to correct, and then I don't know if he just got on the power too early or what it could have been. But that moves Sanchez through. There's the 35 of Stapleton getting out of the way. Sanchez, he's all over the place as Loverink flashes the lights through, and I think Stapleton just went off. He did. Spangler moving through. But Sanchez recognizing that Loverink's a problem, so he doesn't want to get involved at all. Loverink back up to 4th. Clifford, not quite the big red dog, but he is making a big statement right now. Saying the rain never hurt nobody. So why would I be the same? Or why would I be such a character? He's so slow down the hill, though. I'm sure he's been manually changing his traction control and ABS. I've seen at least part of his setup. Of the wheel, but he has been probably fixing that. Spangler getting around Sanchez, those slicks not making things easy for the 21. Sanchez sticking it out. He doesn't care. He says, I'll take the punishment because eventually you guys are gonna have to come in again. That's what he's banking on, and everybody who's out, or everyone who's already got a pit stop cleared, is praying that the circuit stays wet long enough for them to make it worth. Stapleton there, off in turn 1. Waters having to let Lemaire through. Lemaire right now, P13. The lowest of the pro class drivers. Sanchez with Wilson still in tow. Seems like no matter what, these two are going to be close, and Stapleton's going to have to get out of the way. Probably getting blue flagged right now. So hopefully it should be here. Yes, it is. The Ferrari steps aside. Both McLarens go through. Everybody's happy. We all just carry on, but that is really the only battle. Kyrudin and Pocket here. Just some standard blue flag. Nothing crazy. Or is Pocket one of those drivers that opted for the slicks, or sorry, for the wet, excuse me. And we'll show why that's a slightly better option. A little bit of an over-under, though. Kyrudin giving us some side-by-side action there through the final turn. Showing us what is possible, even when you're on different strategies. See, Kyrudin's in a bit of a weird spot, same with Pocket, because the McLaren's faster, simply because of the wet tires. But as they go side by side, yeah, Kyrie is stepping out of the way. I was going to say, he can... Oh, God. A little bit of drifting. Not going to help at all. Let's just see how much correction is on the steering wheel here. Oh, there's so much. For the 732, you can just... He's lifting so far from the corner. There's Loverink. Loverink goes through. Oh, I think there was a bump there. I think it was a little bit of a shoulder check. Double yellows out. Who's off? The 67 Waters. So many problems befalling the 67. It just hurts to see. But Kyrudin is in a world of hurt right now. He was correcting a lot throughout his last lap, and this too. Loverink goes through. There's Waters just up ahead. Behind is Spangler. Let's see what he can do. Superior drive, of course. The treads clearing the water, allowing for a patch to be usable. It just pulls away. Fourth position for the 19. There's Loverink foreground of the shot. As he is going to continue his charge up towards the front. 15 seconds behind Portis. And looking at the math, I think it's another 13, we'll say 12 and a half seconds, so Portis is a long way from the top. But if he's going to take notes from Lanham's livery with high voltage, may have to get ready to rock and roll a little bit. Wilson, Rasco, speaking of the music being made right now, these two guys in their McLarens, giving us a bit of just something to watch, a little, it's no moves, but it's just consistent racing to keep it interesting. Keeping Rasco honest, making sure he's not cutting too many corners, if any. Oops, Sanchez side by side. That's Fernandez. Has Fernandez found something? He has, because the 21 does not have any sort of traction. As much as flat-faced rubber can really give you. Frieza saying, here's how fast you can be if you were on wets. He'll continue on. Sanchez, he is really banking on the weather improving. But it's not too warm. It's not too breezy. So this water's going to stick around for a while. If it stops raining now, I don't know how long it's going to take to clear the circuit. That's the thing. It's only 16 drivers. We lost one. So how quickly do 16 cars clear a circuit once it stops raining? It's not going to matter. It's going to rain again in 30 minutes. There's 32 minutes to go. So I think... Yep, there's Sanchez. He's going in. He's seen the weather report and he's realized, you know what, it's not going to get any better. I'm wasting my time. I need to get in now. Kyrudin as well, probably aware. Same with Clifford and Portis. Now, here's the thing. Loverink and Spangler very close to Portis. This will most likely be an overtake very soon. And Clifford is still out there, up at the top with slicks on. Does he come in? He does have about a 20-second gap to Loverink. And Loverink's still getting quicker, but he's staying out. He is really trying to make this work. I don't know if he can, but it's going to be a hell of a gamble. Spangler and Loverink overtaking Portis. Does Portis... He's staying with it. It's just him, Clifford, Kyrudin. And now with Loverink cleared of the Honda, there is nothing standing between himself and first place. But the rain has stopped. The track is still wet. Now, it'll rain for the final, we'll say, 3 minutes of the race. And if these guys can get a dry line, someone may win. Kyrudin, though, is all set. Kyrudin says, yep, take these off. Get me out of here. I would like to actually drive on the circuit, not suffer on the circuit. And speaking of suffering, Spangler sliding wide there. Loverick starting to pull away quite nicely. Oh, good save there for the 19, losing more time to Loverick. Not like it really matters, though. The gap is closing up. 10 seconds between Loverink and Clifford. And the problem is, Clifford is, I think, probably maybe barely in view. There's Lemaire. He may try to use the 510 as a buffer, and he will be able to do that because Loverink, you can see Clifford just up ahead through turn 1, Lemaire as well. 52. Oh, the sun is coming out. Oh, this is just, there is, nobody knows. Nobody can make heads or tails of this. Portis is in the pit lane. Clifford's the only one that hasn't pitted yet, and he has Lemaire gaining on him, simply because of the different selection of tires. And the track's warmed up, it was, I believe, 22 not that long ago. Now it's 25. The ambient temperature's gone up 2 degrees as well. That does the sunlight and the little bit of extra heat, does that clear a line? If so, how quickly? And then how long does it take, or sorry, for how long rather, does that line stay? Lemaire has gotten around Clifford. Loverink does have a clear line of sight. However, if Clifford continues to gain time, not that he will overall, but if he can, he's so gentle on the throttle, trying not to spin the wheels. And there is Loverink from 10 seconds to less than a tenth of a second in one lap. Jonathan Clifford, everything he's got. He's got to hold Loverink back. He's got to hold Spangler. The Audi down the inside. Spangler looks for a move as well. So the front runner has been demoted to P2. And Spangler getting a little bit loose again. But is this perhaps a bit of I don't know, do you call it unlucky at this point? I'm not certain. I mean, Clifford, he's not even bleeding. The whole chest cavity has been opened. Every drop of the lead he had is just evaporating far quicker than the water on the surface ever could, as Lemaire is getting blue flagged out of the way. So we'll see. But the rain will arrive again in about 25 minutes, 24-25. So is there a line? If the track dries quickly enough, then everybody who's on wets would get to a point where they just do not have any sort of grip. The tires overheat, and they start every single corner becomes impossible to get around at speed. But this is the spot to sit. These two very close. Same with Fernandez and Frizza, actually. So 7th and 1st being disputed over. There's Sanchez coming down the hill. Sanchez down in 13th position. He is having quite a poor race here this evening. Frizza's last lap was a 27.7. Fernandez a 27.39. So let's see what it looks like. 34.84 Oh, I'm looking at the wrong things entirely. Frizza's last lap was a 34.81. Fernandez just did a 34.84. So these two, very close to each other. Not as close as the Audi and the McLaren. As we continue to have these guys arguing over position number 1. Last lap for Lovrink, though, was faster simply because he got around Clifford first. So we'll see what the pace looks like. Yellow flag's out for a moment. I'm not going to open the track map. I'm not going to say anything about it. Oh, Spangler. Spangler very close. Maybe sensing a few weak spots in Loverink's defense. Oh, he is. He has his lines, his break points. I think he can get a little bit more out of it. A 33.38 compared to a 33.45. So there are a couple of corners that Spangler can take advantage of if he's close enough. Lovrink, a little bit wide there out of 1. Gathers it up nicely for 2. Down the hill. Slight lift from Spangler on the brakes, almost into the back there. But this is getting very hot here, and I think a dry line might be starting to form a bit. Looks like it is. Very faint. And it's full sunshine. Ambient 20, track temp 27. For once, the folks of Britain seeing what's behind the clouds, and it's not more rain, it's sunshine. Check in with Fernandez and Frizza. This gap is about the same. So a couple of tenths between these two, a couple of tenths between your leaders. Frizza starting to get a bit of a run here. He's getting a better exit. Does he go for the move? He's going to look to the inside. Gets back behind later on the brakes, almost into the back. Just cuts the corner. But Fernandez, a little bit of slipping. But he will pull away. Into the chicane. Frizza gains there, just on the brakes alone. On exit, loose there. Andrew Wilson, in the meantime, has gotten Clifford. And in he comes, but the track's going to stay dry. Or not going to stay dry. I think the rain has moved over. It's in between 10 and 30, so 20 minutes. I think Clifford, I think he is going to admit defeat here. I think he's saying, you know what, the amount of time that I will gain back is not going to be worth it. That is just how it goes. Now, if this had stayed the way it was, if it was raining at the start and that's all it was going to be, then everyone would just come in for a splash of fuel and that would be it. But because of the conditions, they need a different set of tires on there. And Lovrink starting to pull away. Frizza still within a few tenths of a second on Fernandez. Now, last time we were here, Frizza got a great run, did the same thing, and almost does the same thing again. And he does the same thing. He does the exact same sequence of inputs. Maybe a bit more of a corner cut there, but he was in the slipstream, went to the right, came back in, got on the brakes, got a little too close, ran it way on the inside, and then will gain again before the chicane. I don't think Assetto Corsa has task tools, but if it does, then this would be a very awkward time to bring it out there, Frizza. I want to keep that under wraps. But Clifford rejoins in 11th. This is a huge problem for the championship third place sitting driver. Speaking of which, looking at the split, Lovrink ahead of Landry, who isn't present. So Lovrink, if he wins this race, will he'll overtake and extend the lead. Clifford will overtake Loverink at least, and I don't think Portis will overtake Clifford. So we will have a switch in the top 3, but nothing too big. The track, so let's get in the helicam. So you do see that drier line forming just because of the water that's being cleared, but there's still plenty of moisture around it to where if somebody's tires are a little too warm, they can just step offline, pick up some of that water, and continue on. But everybody's cleared a pit stop. 20:44 to go here at Donington for week 3 of the Simrigs Sprint Series. Loverink leading the way from Spangler, Wilson, Rasco, Fernandez, the top 5. And it's Frizza, Hernandez, Bandera, Kyrudin, and Portis, your top 10. Clifford, the big loser here. He's been in the lead, but he has been demoted to 11th. He tried to tough it out on the slick tires. Saw it wasn't going to get any better by the end of the race. Finally bit the bullet, came in, and that's why he's all the way down to 11th. And it's Lemaire, Sanchez, Pocket, Stapleton, and Waters from 12th to 16th. And Loverink was slower this lap, or sorry, last lap, than Spangler, almost a full 10th slower. Fernandez, I saw the delta go low for a second. Frizza getting close into the braking zone. Let's see if the same thing happens again at the same corner. Oh, Fernandez runs way too wide, and Frizza says thank you as he swings it around the outside, gets loose. Great save there from the 74. Fernandez almost tagging him up. And Frizza has finally gotten the overtake that he has been waiting so long for, and look at that, he'll celebrate by doing the corner properly, not cutting it on the inside. Does Fernandez have any answer? We'll see. Into the chicane, later break. Fernandez, I'd say a straighter line. Looking around, seeing if there's any bit of real estate he can work with. There isn't. But he'll pull in rather close. Just how close is it? Well, that Ferrari fills up far more of the screen than he did previously. Tries to get Frizza to miss his break point. But the Ferrari holds strong in 5th. Now he can start to pull away a bit more. We're going to check back in with the race leaders. Loverink, Spangler, the battle for first continues to rage on. That gap is anywhere from a quarter of a second to half a second. Lap after lap after lap. It feels unusual with how often we've seen Loverink completely gap the field in one race. So to have drivers this close to him consistently for the last few races is very interesting, and I love watching it. You know, it's not quite Max Verstappen anymore. It's, you know, more of when Formula 1 actually had good races and a championship that could go any which way instead of just full domination for a whole season. But anyways, Frizza, his gap hasn't opened up as much as I would have thought. It was only, what, about half a second or so? And according to live timings, it's only 7/10. But we'll see. Maybe it's a slow build. His lap was significantly faster than Fernandez's. That's because of the 26 getting loose and losing his position. Sanchez picking up a drive-through for track limits. So he's got 3 laps to serve that, or else he is going to be disqualified from the race. In the background, you can see Stapleton and Clifford. Last lap for Frizza, 32.84. Fernandez, 33.08. So this gap will be building up shortly. Bandera slowing down quite a lot. I'm not certain what that was for, but that'll give Portis a free position. There's Stapleton getting blue flags. Sanchez immediately serving his drive-through. Isn't going to wait an extra lap. Just going to say, all right, I'll get it done now. Screw it. It's not my problem anymore. As long as he was slowed down enough. That'll give Pocket a free position. There's Bandera. He runs wide. But Craig Pocket leading ahead of Kenneth Portis. Ooh, a lot of front end damage there on the 713. Probably affecting performance a good bit. And Portis bearing down, so this could be an overtake shortly. Pocket's last lap of 36.44. Portis, I just realized this is not a position. This is me just forgetting how timing works. Although Bandera is back in 10th, which means Portis is in 9th, and then you had Sanchez there in 14th. Loverink still with half a second. And his lap time is faster, so I think Loverink and Spangler have gotten to a bit of a stalemate. Now 15 minutes to go. Track is damp. Yellow is out. I'm not going to check, but I am. It's the 35 of Stapleton. Roll that one back, see what happened. Looks like a little bit loose into the chicane. A little bit of a pirouette into the sand trap, well and truly off the racing line. Loverink and Spangler go through, and Stapleton carries on. Well, if you're going to spin, at least do it safely. So the 35 stays in 15th, and this is just a race he wants to get to the checkered flag on. Hernandez in the pits. That's different. Does he have wets on? He does have wets on. Obviously no indication on what the setup is. So I'm curious as to why the 888 is in. Maybe Low Fuel has looked at the laps remaining, or the possible laps remaining, and looked at how long is... Yeah, I think that might have just been fuel. Because that wasn't quite 30 seconds. Maybe fuel, maybe a little bit of repairs on maybe the suspension, but I don't think... He's on dries. He's on dries. Has Hernandez gotten a message from the racing gods that has said, you will need these? But keep in mind, we had rain when we were 33 minutes left. Oh my god, he's sliding. The track is damp. When we had 33 minutes remaining, forecast said more rain to come in the last 3 minutes. But this track drying up from wet to damp will go greasy soon enough. Is Hernandez at the slots and pulling the lever and seeing what comes up? He's just trying to warm these tires up every chance he gets. And there's the rain coming back in 10 minutes, right on time. And then that'll just rain for 3 more minutes. Hernandez, I don't know. With not a lot of time before the end of the race, if this was a short... If this was, I don't know, a dry race and then the rain was going to come in the last 10 minutes, okay, maybe. You know, if it was the same situation the last 3 minutes, like, okay, yeah, it would be a bad idea. Spangler's in the pits. Has Spangler done the same thing? I think Spangler's betting on... Oh my god, are we going to see drivers coming in? Are the wet tires starting to struggle? I remember when I did Sprint, it was at Imola, and I saw the weather, and I said, I'm going to start on wets. And it turned out to be a perfect move, because after the first couple, you know, I struggled the first lap or so, and then everybody went into the pit lane. So is this sort of the reverse of my situation from 2 years ago? 3 years ago? 3 years ago. God, it's been that long already. But, yeah, back on track. Spangler in 4th. No, he has wets on? Surely not for fuel. Maybe suspension? I don't know. No idea. Pocket and Sanchez, though. Side by side, the two McLarens. Sanchez looking on the inside. He is going to back off into the corner. Does not want to make a move where he doesn't have the best odds. On exit, though, gets the power down. And they're both just going to completely murder the corner. Fairly certain you're supposed to take that, but what do I know? There goes Bandera, blue flag through. Stapleton's in the pits, same with Waters. Track is damp, rain is gonna pound the circuit in 7 minutes. Ambient of 19. Track surface 26. It's gone down 1 on both of those. I have no idea how this is going to go. There's Pocket off track. I think the front end starting to get to him. Lovrink goes through. Yep, there it is. If he's going to come in, it's going to have to be for damages at the very least, because that front end's not helping him in the slightest. So let's see. There is absolutely no battles. It's all just looking at the situation and guessing. Wilson's in second. His gap is, it looks to be 22 seconds. I know it's not showing up on the in-game timer, but on broadcast controller, it's showing about 22 to 23 seconds between first and second place. Stapleton's come out. Stapleton's on dries. Waters stays on wets. I cannot make heads or tails of this. I have no idea. Drive through for Waters. Lemaire is in. Pocket is still in the pit lane. Lemaire's coming in. I just don't know. I don't think the drivers know. I think everybody's confused. I think we're, at this point, we're more just guessing. Everyone's saying, you know what? Oh, track is greasy. Alright. The dry condition track is coming up. Oh, Waters is off. Waters is off. Way out there on the grass. I hate to do it to him. But he got very loose on exit. Pocket as well is going to slide around. I don't think... Has Pocket fixed the damage at the front? I think so. Not certain. There's Kyrudin. Nope. Has he switched tires? He has. He's gone on the dries. So Kyrudin, though, down in 7th, though. First race in North America, was doing really well. Weather decided otherwise. Track temp now 25. Another degree. Now this is a race for position. Jonathan Clifford and Joel Bandera for 9th. The 999, it would make sense if he finished in 9th position. Gets a better run there through the chicane, side by side as we head towards the braking zone here. The penultimate corner of the circuit, inside line to the Lamborghini. Sanchez as well. This could be a three-way fight for 9th. Clifford gets the move. And now the two McLarens sit behind him. As Stapleton goes wide, he'll stay out of the way. Everybody is going to just fly on by. Waters serving the drive-through. What a tough race, man. I mean, it's just been very difficult for him. Not what you want to do in your first race, but if you start at rock bottom, you can only go up from there. So there's positives and everything. Down the hill, it's Clifford, Bandera, Hernandez. 9th through 11th. And Sanchez quite a ways off. Or sorry, not Sanchez, Lemaire quite a ways off. Joel Bandera, he's got Sanchez closing up on him. Hernandez, I think in the meantime, has been removed from the picture. Oh, Hernandez is... This is very weird. How is he 11th, but Joel is 10th? And then Sanchez is... Oh, wait, I'm an idiot. I just don't know how things work. Okay, never mind. I figured it out. But I think Loverink's close. Yeah, Loverink's pulling up. So there's Sanchez completely disregarding the chicane's life. And the clouds are coming back in. Ambience dropped another degree. Well, if you're on dries, was it the right call? I'm not quite certain myself. At least the rain has not been... I'm not certain how that has happened. 16 of 17, it was Larry Lanham that we lost. Apparently he pitted for wets and got slicks instead. And then he got a stop-go, and that was it for him. Very unfortunate end to his race, but we'll see him back again next week. Which, if I'm not mistaken, I am fairly certain is Bathurst? I will double check, but I think it's Bathurst. Don't tell me just yet if it is or it isn't. I want to find this out for myself. But it'll be exciting to see if it is. Because Bathurst always has some very... No, it's Laguna Seca, even better. That'll be a super sprint, so it'll be 2 races. 20 and a 40, just like Brands Hatch. Hopefully we don't miss it, but that'll be very fun to watch. But as we get into the final 5 minutes, the clouds have moved in. The track temp drops another degree. And drivers are probably ready to wind down and get it done. And the rain should be here any second now. 4 minutes to go, and I think by the time we hit 3, we'll be, well, back to the precipitation. But next week, yes, it will be Laguna Seca. Rain still not that far away. Rasco. Ooh, Rasco's picked up a bit of front end. That is interesting. Spangler behind. Could this be a last-second move for 3rd place, side by side? But Rasco's going to take that defensive line and just outbrakes himself. You can see the marks on the road. The tires sliding and continuing to do so. But Rasco moves through. Does not need a second invitation. So Spangler is up on the podium. And the rain, there it is, right on schedule. 3 minutes to go. And the rain will take us to the end of the race. Where, oh, where is Loverink? There he is at the chicane. And he will probably have a couple more laps to do before everything is said and done. He is pulling up to Bandera, who is going to have to get out of the way very shortly. I'm sure Bandera is probably in no rush. He knows the gap that Loverink has to 2nd. And as I say that, gets out of the way. Let's check in with Fernandez, who's down here in 7th, has a pretty good gap to Portis. Although, the Honda starting to get close. You can see target is in sight. But if I'm not mistaken... Oh, he is on wets. I'm thinking of someone else. Fernandez surely isn't on wets. Behind him is Pocket. But with 1:55, if Portis is going to get the overtake, it's got to happen soon. He cannot wait any longer. If he's going to make this stick. Oh, Fernandez. Fernandez, did he just get wide? Or did Pocket push him? I don't know. But he's going to have to let him back through. But Portis knows What's happening? Does Pocket stay out of the way? Yes, he does. He gives him a shoulder check. Says, get out of the way. I've got something to do. You're not helping. And Jonathan Clifford there in the background. Alright, Fernandez. What can you do? Your race isn't over yet. You've got another lap or two. Defensive line. McLaren into one. Portis tries a little bit of an over-under. On exit. Into two. Down the hill. They start to go. And the 84 gets it done by the entrance of turn 2. Takes 7th position. And now he has to defend for one more lap. Loverink just started his final tour of the circuit about 20 seconds ago. Does Fernandez have anything in the tank? Look at Portis. He just pulled away. He might have it. Oh, not the best line, though. And keep in mind, Clifford's right behind him. Jonathan Clifford. Can he get into 8th? By the time the checkered flag falls, can he catch him on pace, or is he going to have to wait for them to make a mistake? One final lap for these drivers. Frizza, was he one that... He was not one that went on to dries. I thought he was, but unfortunately he's found himself in probably the worst position. Because Portis, a driver he's very familiar with, bearing down on him. One lap to go here at Donington. And Clifford could also join this by the end of the lap. Into turn 1. On exit, now to 2. Over to 3 and 4. But ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, Loverink, the master of strategy, the master of the Audi, and the master of North America, wins here at Donington Park. Had no idea which way this race was going to go. The weather, a huge factor. Confusing everybody. Bandera's in 10th. Then it's Sanchez, Lemaire, Pocket, Stapleton that's down 12th to 15th. Hernandez will come home in 11th. Waters will be 16th. We still wait. Wilson will cross the line. Second place for him. And Jeff Spangler, in his first race out here in North America, again after a long hiatus, will finish up the podium. And Brian Rasco as well will finish in 4th. And then Kyrudin, the debutant here from Asia Pacific, Malaysia specifically, will get into the top 5. Frizza has to defend. Portis looked down the inside. It wasn't there. Later breaking Fernandez. Look at how close the Honda is. Frizza, defensive line. He wants to make Portis go around the outside, keeping him high and dry, but look at how close he is. He's right inside the car. It's going to be a drag race, though. As we go to the line, who's it going to be? Frizza, 7 thousandths of a second over Portis. And Fernandez has to settle back a little bit more. That was incredibly close. Wow, what in the world? That was way too close. Frizza. I didn't know James Bond was behind the wheel. But, folks, before we get out of here, let's take a look at your final standings. Loverink, first place, Wilson, Spangler, Rasco, and Kyrudin, the top 5. And, of course, Frizza beating out Portis, 7 thousandths of a second. Fernandez, Clifford, and Bandera. Clifford, rough race from him. Gamble didn't work, and of course we lost Lanham and Waters having a rough one as well. For the Pro-Ams, Fernandez, Hernandez, and Pocket. For the amateur class, just Stapleton, the only am that showed up here tonight. And then for the silver drivers, it is Frizza, Bandera, Sanchez, Waters, and Lanham. But man, the end there for these two. How about that? Right at the line. I was waiting to see if we'd ever have sort of a photo finish there at the end. And I'm glad we got it. But a great race overall. Before we get out of here, of course, folks. One final shout out to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 17 of the Sprint Series. Melbourne, Australia. All of Australia, New Zealand, no questions asked. But outside of that, send them an email. They'll be more than happy to upgrade your sim rig. If you're looking to do that for yourself or somebody else. And of course, if you're supporting us over on Patreon, of course, thank you for that. You guys are wonderful, but you're going to get a 5% discount code, so do take advantage of that. Sim racing not cheap, and it just seems to get a little bit more expensive every single time I look at it. But again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 17. Folks, we are going to be out of here. Next week, it's Laguna Seca Super Sprint, 2 races, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and you know that means we're going to have a reverse grid for race number 2. Going to be interesting to see how everybody handles that. Of course, Laguna Seca, very popular circuit, and very iconic as well. But on behalf of myself and everybody here at the OOR, we'd like to thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed your stay. And as always, folks, until next time, stay safe, stay beautiful, and get ready. Super Sprint next week.